The other one I mentioned, obviously, Balikwisha, £5 million. What's your take on him so far, Ryan? I know he's not had much time in the first team really yet, but he's not really set the heather alight, has he?
That's putting it politely, Dan. It's a real head scratcher, this one, because I mean Celtic I've been tracking this lad for more than 12 months. We know that. He obviously had his injury issues around about winter time, which was why a move to Celtic didn't transpire in January. They waited until August to finally land him, and it doesn't really seem the right fit at the minute. It's far too early to judge him, right? Too early to judge him. For me, a player needs at least 10 starts before there can be any snap judgments made. So I'm reluctant to go hard on him. But on the early kind of cameos, which we have witnessed, it's not been great. I think, his debut at Ibrox, it's hard, you're thrown into a baptism of fire at Ibrox. Again, you can never judge a player on that. But, he was up against a 33-year-old James Tavernier at right back. And, if there's one player you want to be up against, it's Tavernier, because we all know his fragilities defensively. And Balikwisha just seems so reluctant to drive forward or get past him. He just seemed to revert back and take the easy pass. And that was, again, the case in his subsequent appearances as well. He came off the bench again against Hibs at the weekend, and he just never looked like making any sort of impact whatsoever. I know it's kind of hard to judge him, because Brendan Rodgers has acknowledged this as well. As a result of kind of Celtic's chaotic window, shall we say, they are short at right wing, and Balikwisha has been forced to kind of play in that role because of Seb Konecki's outstanding start. So I think if he gets a run of games in his favourite position on the left-hand side, then we'll really discover what type of player he is. Obviously, like everyone else, you'll have watched the highlights reel of his time in Belgium. We've obviously spoken to a couple of journalists over there as well, and I know he was really highly regarded over there. And Celtic were able to get him for around £5 million because he was kind of entering the final year of his contract. So on paper, it looked good business. But for me, warning signs always come out. And I know it's easy to say this now because he's not got off to a great start. But I did think at the time, when it emerges that, Celtic need to fly over to Belgium to convince a player to sign for them. For me, the warning signals are out. I always remember the fiasco with Stefan Skepovic. 1 minute he was signing, the next he wasn't. Celtic had to convince him to sign. He joins, and then his move turns out to be a disaster. Kind of, whenever I hear stories like that, it always reminds me of Stefan Skepovic. Hopefully, Balikwisha will be a success at Celtic, and he'll prove a lot of the fans wrong after a kind of shaky start. But yeah, it's early days. It's too hard to. We can't make any snap judgments. But he certainly has a lot to prove, and you'll need to make huge improvements if he's to dislodge Seb Konecki from that left hand side. The right hand side is a massive problem for Celtic. You've only got James Forrest and Yang, your natural wingers out there. Obviously, Daiza Maeda was shifted out there against Hibs at the weekend. Doesn't really look comfortable in that position. So there's an imbalance there, and I think, unfortunately for Balikwisha, he's found himself as a victim of it.
Well, I mean, on Balikwisha, I think I can't argue with anything you say. I think it's far too early to cast judgment on him. However, the thing you said there about him having to be convinced to sign for Celtic, I agree with you. That's what I mean. Why should you be, with all due respect to the club he was at, convinced to come and play for Celtic? That stood out to me as well. And I say that because it almost looks to me in his early appearances that he doesn't particularly want to be there. And now, look, that could be completely unfair. That might just be his style of play. And I would also throw in, I kind of thought similar about Nicholas Kuhn when he came. Nicholas Kuhn, I thought to myself,
exactly.
I don't see it. I don't really see it. We know he had the dental problems, didn't he? But it's just difficult with Balikwisha because his body language, he just doesn't look like he almost looks like he's been forced into this move a wee bit. Yeah, and that might be totally unfair, but that's just the early indications or the early feelings on it, I guess.
Yeah, his body language is a wee bit of a concern for me, if I'm being honest. I mean, I saw him, it was in the dying minutes against Hibs at the weekend, and he was going over to help with a corner kick, and he was just kind of strolling over. It just, you know, at that point, you know, the fans are roaring to get behind the team, you know, rolling them on to get that winner. But Balikwisha just seemed to be in the wrong movie at the weekend. And again, he's only come off the bench. I get it. I'm not going to be too harsh on him, but yeah, it's early days. We'll just need to wait and see how he progresses. As I say, he's not got off to a great start. It hasn't helped his handling. Obviously, he's been forced out to play out of position. He's not really had a run of games yet, or as of yet. So once he does get a run of games, once he does play in his favourite position, then I think we'll be in a better position to cast judgment.
And believe me, there's nothing I like more than to see Balikwisha make me eat my words. But fingers crossed he does in the coming weeks and months.